Michel is a policy analyst at the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies, part of conservative U.S. think tank, the Heritage Foundation. He joins us live from Washington, D.C., and great to have you on today. So the big question is, how do the Republicans pay for this?
Well, the whole point of this tax plan is to get the economy moving again. It's about bringing back jobs, bringing back investment, getting the economy growing again, and that will bring additional revenue in the door. And then they've also talked about getting rid of all the special deductions and credits. That makes it even easier. And then the rest of it is not that big of a hole. It's about reining in spending ultimately, but the process of getting tax reform shouldn't be stymied by these procedural constraints.
So not that big of a hole, but we're looking at a potential of $1.5 trillion being added onto the federal deficit over the next 10 years. We have heard the administration argument. We had Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross on yesterday saying this will grow the economy by 1%. How do you get to 1%? That extra 1%?
It should, if we stick by this plan and maybe even extend something like the full expensing provision, we should see significantly more growth over 10 years than just 1%. The economy should be 8, 9, almost 10% bigger at the end of 10 years, and that's additional tax revenue. The $1.5 trillion that you mentioned over 10 years is again over 10 years. If you take the whole federal revenue that's projected to come in at over $40 trillion over that period of time, the $1 trillion number starts looking much smaller.
Adam, a lot of this assumes that the money that comes back in, if there is a one-time repatriation, we should add that we don't even know on what basis the repatriation will be done at what rate. That assumes that natural economic theory takes place and the companies want to expand and grow and hire more workers and raise wages and everything. But as we've seen, that's not always the case. So a lot of times when they come into excess cash, they go into the market and do stock buybacks instead, and it doesn't necessarily trickle down to increased income. Isn't that a concern?
If the tax reform is done correctly by moving to expensing, lowering the corporate tax rate, we have seen time and time again across countries and across the U.S. states that does lead to additional investment, which means additional job creation here in America, which will then drive up wages. So the real economic theory here is that making it a more attractive business environment helps all American workers.
Right. Adam, Schumer, speaking for the Democrats, jumped right on it, of course, and said that it's a mean deal. It actually hurts middle Americans. How do you read that? Because the top rate, they're keeping at 35 with a fourth rate option that could be higher than that. It does simplify taxes. AMT would go away, for example. The estate tax, inheritance tax would go away. When the Dems attack it, how do you respond to their allegations?
Well, as you noted, that we're lowering tax rates across the board for everyone, but we're also increasing the standard deduction as part of the plan, and this is something that again helps everyone, including those at the bottom of the income distribution. So the point of tax reform is that everyone comes out ahead. We shouldn't be raising tax burdens on anyone, and then paired with economic growth, increasing wages, making America a more competitive place to do business. These things paired together will help everyone across the board, and we shouldn't get caught up in sort of counting the specific pieces on one side or the other if everyone is really going to be doing better at the end of the day.
Adam, the thinking is that this is an issue that will likely unify Republicans more than health care. The reality is we haven't seen a full-fledged tax overhaul since 1986 over in the U.S. So what's the likeliness that Republicans can get Democrats on board with us?
Well, as you noted, it's been more than 30 years since we've reformed our tax code, and so it's now is the time. We can't miss this historic opportunity. The economy is in dire need of this help. So Republicans should try to bring Democrats on board. More jobs, higher wages. These are things that should be bipartisan. But if Democrats don't want to come on board, the Republicans should move this through the Senate using their budget tools to get this to the president by the end of the year.
All right, Adam, we'll be talking more. I'm sure we'll be having fun in the next few months. Adam Michel joining us very late. Thanks for staying back from the Heritage Foundation in D.C.